Good evening. It is 5:15 this Monday, August 14th, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, that's out of the way. Roll call, all are present. We're going to kind of flip-flop a little bit tonight just because time is of the essence for some of our guests. And so item number 3 on tonight's agenda is a Carroll Ragbri recognition. This is something that I had asked to be on today's agenda to recognize the incredible work done by the executive team, their subcommittees. We have fire codes, so we can invite every city person that volunteered with this and people that opened up their homes and the nonprofits that participated. But I did want to recognize the people that did the brunt of the work that I was most fortunate to witness firsthand. And so if you would do so, please, I would ask you to just come up here. And it's not a firing line, but just kind of from maybe Dan on over to Randy, just kind of line up. And Chad, I'm going to have, is that okay? Oh, well, Mike, I'm going to have you introduce everybody. Is that okay? Yes. Can I do that? Okay. You know who you're sitting next to and everybody else, right? Come on up here. And we just want to recognize you as all. And come on up here. And Mike, I'll have you introduce everybody. Maybe what their title was, and that's essentially maybe it, and then we're going to let you get out of here. What's that? Oh, that's all right. Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
So they can hear it on TV, you got to go to the.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay, our exec committee, Katie Unken. Yeah, I guess it's not.
That's good. That's good. Katie Cruz.
Katie Cruz.
Give my husband a little credit.
Her husband Chad T. Meyer, Ashley Shabel, Mark Thompson, Linda Dukes Franey, Maggie Pauling,
TJ.
TJ Pauly, and
Mr. Pauly.
Jason, our great communications. So that's us.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
honored to serve.
And sincerely, a job well done. So couldn't have pulled it off without all of you guys. So there's no parting door prizes or anything. We just wanted to officially recognize you as part of our business today. So again, thank you very, very, very much.
Has Ragbri gotten back yet on any finalization of the whole ride to you?
We meet with them on the 28th.
Okay.
We shouldn't forget our note taker, Laura, as well.
Laura was in on it. So. Yeah. Thank you again, everybody. God bless you all.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is a little smaller crowd, unfortunately, but probably a busy night for everybody. But also wanted to recognize the committee that formed to pull off a wonderful state baseball tournament here in Carroll. And Chad, I will turn that over to you, and maybe you can go stand up. Or are you going to just do it from there?
I can just do it.
Okay.
So, yeah, we got a couple of our members on our, I guess, main committee for state baseball. First one, Dave. Dave does a lot of behind-the-scenes work and attends basically every meeting. We've got Ashley Shabel. We have Katie Onken.
Come on and
Cruz.
step on. Just step on up one more time. Sorry, going to make you do it, but
We have
Sorry.
Randy Beeson, Chase Worden, myself. We're missing a few people here tonight, but you know it's an awesome core group. You know, it's kind of cut and paste at this point.
Boy, it was way harder than Ragbri, right?
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, this is an awesome team to work with, and you know we couldn't do it without these volunteers that helped this go. So
absolutely. Thank you again. And unlike Ragbri, we'll see you next year. How about that? That's a promise.
Hopefully for a bigger tournament, too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're holding out for that too, Chase. Thank you again. Okay, thank you, everybody, for allowing me that. We have tonight's consent agenda. On the consent, we have approval of the July 25th, 2023 meeting. We have approval of this cycle's bills and claims. We also have 2 licenses, a renewal of a Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service with Jalisco, and then we have a new 5-day Class C retail alcohol license for the date of September 29th on the Hy-Vee Carroll for the Homecoming Bar for Kemper. Also on the agenda, a consent agenda, is a selling of a city vehicle, and the memo is included in our packet, and as well as a memo from the amended fiscal year 22-23 year-end transfers resolution. Are there any questions or concerns with tonight's consent agenda? And if not, I would seek a motion to approve it as presented.
So moved.
Tom, and then JJ. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Schreck? Yes. Bauer?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Dirks?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Item number 6, as always, oral requests and communications from the audience. We ran everybody out of here, apparently. There is nobody online either. So we'll move on to ordinances. There are none. Resolutions, there are none. And we will move to reports. The first one is Empower Rural Iowa Rural Housing Assessment Grant. That's a little redundant. Empower Rural Iowa Rural Housing Assessment Grant. Aaron.
So in our process of the Thriving Communities grant or designation application, one of the things that was, I think, a key to that application was a rural housing assessment. It's similar to a housing study, but it gives you a little bit more as to, hopefully, I'm gonna steal a word from Mark, a mechanism to how to get housing going and to create housing in our community. IEDA is high on this process, so there's a grant out there that would provide $10,000 out of the $15,000 total cost for the housing assessment. And so I would like to apply for the housing assessment grant and see if we can get that $10,000, and then we feel very comfortable that we could come up with the matching $5,000 out of one of our reserve funds to pay for that.
When Aaron and I met earlier last week, here's another study, and I was a little bit questioned about it and its necessity, and I think the memo said that it was hinted that we should do this, not strongly suggested or required. Really want this to be a council decision. I think I was really disappointed we didn't get the Thriving Iowa thing. I really thought we were a slam dunk. That's kind of how cocky I get. But I just really felt that, and I was shocked that we didn't get it. We kind of heard later today who the recipients were. And of course, I'm kind of thinking, well, we're better than them. But, apparently one thing we didn't have in there was something that they thoroughly recommend, and that's this housing assessment. So I want the council to discussion its necessity and whether or not to move forward with it, and then also give Laura some direction as far as what fund. They mentioned it can come out of several things, but what your suggestion would be as to what the funds would be, so you can take it away. Not all at once. Housing Committee, want to start?
I definitely think it's something, especially if have a grant of $10,000 and we only have a capital outlay of $5,000, it's definitely something we should do, especially for in the future.
I just have I'm for this. I agree with what Kyle just said, and I believe data really helps give us valid information for guiding us. I just was wondering, I did watch the webinar that Lizelle, I believe her name was, and she basically walked through the link to the Rural Housing Assessment Guidelines, and I was impressed with what they're able to provide, and I just wondered, Okay, so we're going to have access to the portal that has all the data that we can use to arrive at conclusions, data based on the city of Carroll, correct? And so are they constantly, I mean, this is like a 2-year span that we have to gather the data to 25. Are they constantly updating the information that is at this portal? In other words, the data, we're gonna have the latest data, trends, et cetera, et cetera. Is that Aaron, is that,
A lot of that data is always updating.
okay, so
and
they're,
You
okay,
just have to be able to know where to go to access that. So
Okay.
yes, that information will be accessed.
okay, I think that's great. Also, then, will we have someone access from the city or the group, they have the housing group, whatever, accessing the data, or are we accessing Iowa State to pull data for us? Or is it a little of both?
I wish I knew, Carolyn, I'm sorry.
I don't, I find it, I like doing research, so I find it very interesting.
I mean, these are good questions that I hadn't even
I
thought
don't
about,
know.
so.
My experience, I went through the starting process of this, housing assessment in Fairfield.
Okay,
And so the access of data came from the Iowa State Extension folks.
Okay.
But the follow-up afterwards, I wasn't a part of, so I'm not sure how
Okay.
that works.
but they'll walk us through.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's a part of what we're kicking in the 5,000 for.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And just to follow up, I actually, quite honestly, I think our fund to probably pay for this would be a general fund reserve payment.
Okay, I don't recall the financials, but, I mean, certainly comfortable with that. I mean, I certainly couldn't disagree with that. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Stamp of approval, okay.
I guess the question that I have is, what are we trying to benefit, or what will we benefit by doing this? Like, what are we gonna gain from this, and how are we going to make sure that it's utilized and not just another study or another assessment that's done and not one that's done and
Well, part of the
just kind of set to the
process,
side again?
part of the process I was involved in, they were setting up groups that would go out and do some education and it was part of that process to set up and use the information that they had, and for us to go out and educate people and do some more community outreach with this. So I think that's kinda, when you get a housing study, you get the information and you all look at it and go, hey, that's great. There's more to it than this. You as council members will be involved. There'll be a lot of city, connections or players that are out in the private sector that will get drug into this, and bankers, and those folks will all be part of this in order to try to make this more of a community effort than just, hey, we need houses, I guess would be the way I would say it.
Maybe I'm wrong. Isn't that kind of why we have this housing committee that's already put together to try and come up with some of these questions and answers and solutions?
Correct, but it's bringing more people together into a room to think through this process. And they lead us through the process on what steps need to be taken to move forward with it.
Okay, one more question. When we get the assessment back and they want to come in and do that, how much additional money is the city going to be expected to pay to have these people come in and do anything?
The $5,000 match is what we have to pay, that's it.
You're asking exactly what I was asking, earlier in the week is, and the housing study that was performed most recently in
2021.
Yeah, it was not, what, they recognized that we had that, but not this. And it seems to me like a bit of a hook, more so than anything. But the ones that did receive it apparently had that. Now, whether or not it's the missing piece or not, and we don't even know if they're gonna do Iowa Thriving Communities next year. We really don't know that. We think that it's been successful enough that it's likely to, but, it's going exactly, what the same, you're thinking is where I was asking about it earlier in the week, last week. And again, this is not to be confused with this downtown assessment that we're gonna do later on. That's not, it's two different things. But again, it's, to your point, it is just another study. And will it bear fruit? That's the question that we've got at hand tonight.
It's my understanding, if you get into that Iowa Thriving Communities, industries that are looking to come to town, we'll look at if you're part of that or not.
I don't want to be Debbie Downer on it, but I mean, it's going to tell you what we already know. I mean, these guys probably know it perhaps better than anyone. I mean, they've done a lot of work too, but I guess we know our communities and we know what we need in terms of housing and so on and so forth. It's good. You're going to be disappointed. It's going to tell you what you already know. But again, at the same time, it's probably, not going to bode well for us next year if we don't do it.
I said, because you have to have it in order to get chosen, in order to be chosen.
They didn't say,
Basic.
They didn't say that, but
Yeah,
they sure did hint
hinted.
at that.
Hinted is the term, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and.
Strong-armed us,
yeah.
Misty.
In the webinar too, the gal supplemented the basic information in this assessment grant guidelines and said, this is how you can gain points and to get this grant. So,
Yeah.
it is helpful. And I think, we tried the 20,000 to incentivize, building new homes. Did we base that on data or did, we kind of kept changing it up as we sensed what was happening. And I don't know, for me, I just think the data will help guide us and maybe help us target where we put our money or incentives so that maybe we're being given some direction. We know, all of us know a lot about what's going on in the community, but that's how I look at this information from my perspective is, the information will maybe guide me in my conclusions about housing. I don't know if it'll work that way for everybody, but that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Carolyn. If it made you feel maybe slightly more palatable, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking I wouldn't want it to be the one thing that kicks us out. And it seems to kind of be the last piece of the puzzle. So I'm okay with it. I just wanted to let the council make the decision without a whole lot of my editorializing, which is common for me. So I guess if the council is willing to move forward, are there any other questions that we'll have an opportunity to have further discussion on when we take a motion, but any other questions come forward? If not, I would seek a motion to, as a recommendation, say, is approved to support the application of the rural housing assessment in a cash match of 5,000. Was that Tom?
Yeah.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
And that's Carolyn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Jerks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Motion is approved.
Perfect, thank you. And then following that, as we're getting serious about housing, here's my comment I made earlier, but is 408 West 7th Street request for bids, and I think, Aaron, you're still on deck, aren't you?
Yep. Well, as you all can assume, that we finally got through the legal process and we now own and have legal title to 408 West 7th Street. And I would like the council to approve the bid process so that we can put this out to bid starting tomorrow and then accept bids, open bids on the 25th, and I'll give you a report on those bids on the 28th.
So moved.
I have a couple.
Oh, I've got a lot of questions too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one of the questions I have, so
I'll get back to you here,
minimum
Tom.
bid of $12,000. I'm guessing we've got roughly that in legal fees.
We don't have that, quite that much, but yes.
Okay. Second, to have bids by August 25th. I think that timeline is not long enough.
Okay,
I think that needs to be pushed out till the next council meeting or possibly the following one. I think you need to have 30 days or so for people to get in to view this, maybe get contractors inside to get an idea what it's gonna cost.
okay.
You'd have to change the public hearing date then too, which is, you asked two of the questions I had, Kyle.
Yeah, it ties into J, letter J down below with the,
So set the, let's see, the council meeting in September is the 11th, so set the bid date
September 8th is what I have.
September 8th, okay?
Or the 22nd. I mean,
I,
I guess how much interest has there been on this property so far?
I have two contractors that are interested in it that have been waiting for me to put this out.
But to your point, I'd like to have 20.
Okay?
Yeah,
So we could certainly put it out, close it on the 8th, have a report back on the 11th, and then have the public hearing on the 25th, and accept and close the deal on the 25th.
Well, if you take bids, if I might add, if you take bids and close it on the 8th, it won't be in the agenda packet for the 11th meeting unless you send it out after the fact. Or if you want to present the bids that night of the 11th.
Well, that would be my intent, is present the bids on, but just to give them the report and let them accept on the 11th, yeah.
Yep, just so that if that's the date that you end up accepting the bids, that's what would happen.
One other question, where is this gonna be advertised that people can do it?
Put it in the paper, we could put it on our city website.
I'd like to see it
Anywhere
in
else,
the
would you
paper, I'd
like
like
it?
to see it on the radio,
Facebook.
everywhere.
Facebook for sure. Both papers.
Blasted,
It'll
more the
be,
merrier.
yeah, I don't know if we gotta spend money to put, like the radio, but you could certainly cover it in your city manager's report.
Already did that.
Yeah, but I don't think the dates were specific, were they, as I recall?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't think they were.
Might not have been.
I remember you talked about the plan,
Yep.
but I don't think there was any bids to get. I didn't know what the bids were due until
Well, we can put it, I just wanted, I assumed we wanted to get this going, and with a couple interests, I think there's people already paying attention to it, so.
you asked two of the four questions I had already, and I thought it was a little aggressive. I mean, I like that, but at the same time, I think we need to have some time to get it out there a little bit more and find it. But
That's fine.
I like the question about the marketing plan, what the marketing plan's gonna
That'd be
be.
marketed.
Because you guys can all recall that, when the city apartment sold, that was the knock, that no one knew about it, they claimed. And I just want there to be no claims out there. You're on. Okay, newspaper, you're on. Okay? It's up to you. That's
I
what that
agree
is,
with you, Mark,
Jack.
cause the open, transparent, I want that out there, that's what I came here to do, and make sure everybody sees it and gets a fair opportunity.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on the marketing plan? Rent a billboard, get a tow banner behind an airplane. I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out there, but no. We got to get the word out and the best we possibly can.
That's fine. We can change that, that's pretty simple to
Any
change.
other suggestions while we're here? And then can we talk one more time about what the timeline would be then? So if the bids would be due September 8th, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
And
So
then what
I would
about
bring a
having it in the
report to you
packet?
on the 11th, and would have to send that out as a supplemental for the packet on the 11th.
Okay,
And then we would
public
close,
hearing,
the public hearing would be on the 25th,
okay,
and then we would accept and finalize that on the 25th. Any other verbiage that you want to say there, Dave? Since I took it from you the last time.
Well, I think we just need to change the dates is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah, the rest is.
I think so.
Good.
one of the only other things that I'm gonna have a question on is timeline of project. Obviously, we have that on the bid sheet, but
I
we as
know,
a city,
we
do we
didn't talk.
expect this to be done by end of 24, end of 25?
Well, it depends on what the project comes back as, because if somebody's gonna come in and give us a bid dependent on, or planning on using, workforce house tax credits.
They're not awarded
that's-
till
they don't-
August.
They don't, the application isn't due until May or June, and then they're not awarded until next August. So something might not happen with the project if we feel comfortable with that developer. I mean, that would be more important to me than, oh yeah, I'll be done in 2 months.
As long as they have that.
Yes.
Saying, hey, I'm gonna apply for the workforce housing tax credit, may not start a
Right,
year from now.
right.
Okay.
I think isn't that covered on the back of the bid form? I figured it would be flexible. Says bidders shall provide the city with schedule and timeline for renovation, completion, and occupancy. So we're flexible,
I
right?
just don't want somebody to be discouraged from it by maybe not getting the workforce tax credits, because that's a lot.
We're not, I wouldn't want to set a specific timeline that thou shalt be done by January 1 or whatever, but on the flip side, I don't want somebody to give us a vague timeline and something like that and then not do anything. And then here we are left going, well, what are you gonna do? When are you gonna go?
Yep.
Kyle, that was one of the questions I had also, because the bid form is different than what the notice for bid says. The notice for bid says, they use the term, it's expectation is in there and not necessarily requirement. And so I thought that was just a little too vague, so I'm glad you brought that up. And again, just thinking ahead, so in other words, if we get 2 or 20 bids, the council could be very well prepared that we might not accept the highest bid. And I want everybody to be prepared that that may happen, because then their business plan to us might be more palatable, even though it's the lower bid, or their timeline might be more aggressive. I think there's a lot of objectivity that's going to go into this, and I want the council to be prepared for that. And then I would not be surprised, I'm not saying that it'll happen, but there could also be some lobbying as well. And I want to make sure that we're up for that. Because again, when you're not putting in definition to some of these items, it's open to a lot of objectivity. Correct? Am I off base?
No.
It will be,
Which could be a good thing to hear all that.
sure.
One
Yeah.
thing I would caution though on is, I think, using the word requirement, because
Yeah,
a lot of times we use the word requirement and then we don't stick to it, and then we get beat around because of that.
Yeah.
So expected or expectation, as long as we are following up and doing our due diligence with whomever, then I think that feels better, that's percepted better
Yeah.
than calling something required.
Yeah, I can't disagree.
Because 9 times out of 10, somebody that says they're gonna be able to do it can't when it
Right.
comes to construction. So as long as they're doing what they say they're gonna do.
yeah. Well, that was a concern that came up,
Yeah.
previously on this.
Yep.
Okay. So we're gonna change the timelines on it, is all that we're doing. We're gonna move forward here just a few minutes, but I mean, we're just changing timelines then?
Changing dates?
Yep. Is everybody on the same page?
Yep.
All right, is there anything else? And we're gonna mark it the daylights out of it and hope for the best. So I will need a motion to move forward with the request for bid form and the bid form itself, to move forward with this.
So moved.
Second?
Third.
Okay, so was it Tom and then seconded by Kyle? I was still reading where I was, sorry. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirk,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Base, yes, Bauer,
Yes.
Fornero,
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes,
Motion is approved.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, regular part of the meeting's pretty quick tonight. Committee reports, none. Comments from the mayor, I have just one brief one. This will go out later tonight, but I will issue press release on this, and after much deliberation and personal introspective and prayer, I have decided not to be a candidate for election this fall. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with such talented and dedicated staff and for the citizens of Carroll. While I'll certainly miss that the most, this decision did not come easily, although it is best for my family, who I care for just a little bit more. Most importantly, with just over 4 months remaining in this seat, I will remain steadfast and fully resolved to carry out the duties of this office and continue fervently on our mission as I have since day one. There's a lot of work to be done yet, and I'm not going to back off now. And that's all I have to say about that. Comments from the city manager? We'll have
The mayor has done a fine job working with a couple of housing topics that that the Fairview Village Apartments have brought up. And one of the gentlemen that we had an opportunity to get to know and meet, Steve Eggleston, who has been involved in USDA, he's been involved in HUD. We have a meeting set with him to where we want to bring a few of the community members. We want this to be a small meeting, so Laverne, since he's been awful busy with the housing committee, he's going to be there to help represent the council. Obviously, he's going to be reporting back as a council member, but then we'll also bring in banks, some of the banks, and other business members in here, so that we have it's an open meeting, but we want to keep it somewhat small. So that's going to be on the 30th at the chamber office, I believe.
August 30th. 1
August 30th, 1 o'clock at the chamber for that. So that will be something moving forward. Hopefully give us like I said, I stole the word mechanism from the mayor. Hopefully that'll help us with that mechanism to get things moving.
Are you talking on that particular area
No,
or on USDA?
in general.
Okay.
This guy's from
This would be a
HUD.
great meeting
Okay.
to have before we go to Washington DC.
Yep.
What time is that meeting?
1 o'clock. Yeah, August 30th, 1 o'clock at the chamber. This guy ran into him pursuing the Fairview issue. And he has circled back around to me because I want you to take a look at things, from a federal standpoint, not so much just a state standpoint. And so hopefully, we've had an awful lot of discussion about housing, and hopefully this will be what might propel us into, finding, more solutions for housing in general. But it involves, my article this Friday is about applying labels on housing and the dangers in applying labels that are misappropriated when anytime you want to use the terms, fill in the blank type of housing, because it casts a dark shadow and only due to the problems that we've had up there. And this guy isn't going to necessarily be able to solve that, but he's going to help us rethink, what HUD housing can and cannot do. So I think it'll be beneficial. So thanks, Aaron. Comments from the city council? Anybody got comments? Hearing none. We will now need a motion in just a second to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5 to discuss the purchase of particular real estate where premature disclosure could reasonably expect price to increase, see we'd have to pay for the property. And I understand our council, SEL, says that this certainly qualifies.
That's a good long one, isn't it?
It is.
Description.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yes.
rural, and rural.
I think he wrote that.
I want to make sure I'm doing my things right. We'll go into closed session, and then we come back, then we'll adjourn publicly. Is that correct? I'm still learning. So I'll need a motion to go into closed session.
Don't move.
Tom, and seconded by Kyle. Further discussion, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Bornero?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Streck?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dace? Yes.
Thank you.
Moving forward.